Testing. No.
I thought they turned it on. Yeah, there you go.
Before we start,
Hey, technical support.
It's on.
is it on? I did flip the switch. I should have flipped it back.
That shouldn't matter.
So speakers are going to be obviously eventually people will be flopping.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah, we're just.
Hello? No. There we go. Okay, before we start, I just want to say if anybody lost their phone,
Oh, geez.
we have it. So if anybody's missing a mobile phone, they left it at the check-in. Looks like this. We're just waiting for, then you're going to start. We're just waiting for make sure that everybody's getting the opportunity to finish up their testing before they come in so we can start. Sorry for the delay that way.
Thank you. Yeah, I was going to say that too because I tried yesterday.
Yes, we do.
Okay. Got it. Thanks, Paul. I need that. Yeah, and everybody says, well, you do it in education. I said, that's a different platform.
No, that's where I get it.
Oh, I'm great. Good to go.
I feel like I was a great example to these kids, and I feel like I'm not enough. They know the whole thing. I don't know what the way they're describing it. But then I felt like something great. It's going to be better.
Yeah, exactly. The latter. I think it's going to be. It's very. No, no prayer. It's just we're gonna do. Do you know? Oh, I'll go. Okay, then I do some remarks and go to you. I think we're ready to rock and roll. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, if you don't mind. And then if you come right to that. I'll go right to. Nancy's just making sure you get stuff out. She's gonna come right to that corner. We're ready. Good morning, everyone. Are we ready this morning? I want to welcome all the delegates to the 107th Agriculture Convention here in Atlantic City. Thank you all for being here today. It's extremely important. I'm going to read public notice. Pursuant to NJSA 10:4-6, adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by given written notice of the time and date, location, and the extent known to agenda of this meeting. At least 48 hours in advance, this notice was posted on the third floor of 200 Riverview Plaza, Trenton, New Jersey, mailed to Newark Star Leisure, Camden Courier Post, the Philadelphia Inquirer, and filed with the Office of Secretary of State. Can you all please join me in the flag salute? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, liberty, and justice for all. At this time, we would like everyone to take a moment of reflection to remember all of those in the agriculture community that have been lost this past year. Please bow your heads. Thank you. I would like to introduce the State Board of Agriculture, but I would like to take this opportunity, since we've been in such a pandemic, webinars, virtual components, I'd like them to come to the mics in the center and introduce themselves so everybody on the floor can realize who each one of these board members are and the committee that they hold. Paul, would you like to start?
Welcome back, everybody. It's good to see you in person again. For those in the room that don't know me, I'm Paul Lubick. I hail from Burlington County. I'm in my third year on the board. I represent grain and forage. I chair Ag Policy and Planning. I chair the Pinelands Advisory Committee. I'm also serving legislative grants, personnel, and minimum wage. And if anybody ever has any questions or comments, I'm always available. Thank you.
Holly?
Good morning. My name is Holly Seitzma, and for those of you who don't know me, I'm from Sussex County, the northern region, and we have a dairy farm up that way, so I represent the dairy industry on the board. I serve on ag policy, the commodity groups, and I chair wildlife, livestock processing, and the nominating committee. So please feel free to reach out, and I look forward to meeting some new people down here.
Kurt?
Good morning, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here with all of you again in person. Kurt Alstead. I'm a fruit and vegetable grower from Morris County with my family. I serve here in my first year on the state board, and it's a pleasure to serve all of you. In addition to my personnel committee responsibilities on the state board, I'm currently a director for Farm Credit East, and I'm also a vice chairman of the Highlands Council up north. Again, thanks and pleasure to see you all.
Thank you, Kurt. Debbie?
Good morning. My name is Debbie Norris. I'm from Somerset County. I am in my junior term, and I serve as the vegetable liaison. My committees that I chair are legislative and commodities. I'm also on the livestock committee and convention and personnel. So please feel free to reach out to me. My phone number is in the book, and all of our state email addresses are our first name, a dot, and then our last name followed by the agnj.gov.
Thank you, Debbie. Lisa?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Lisa Stecca. This is my first year serving on the State Board of Agriculture. I am from Burlington County, and our family operates a vegetable operation just north of Mount Holly, and I represent the vegetable industry on the State Board. The committees that I have been selected to participate in are land use, ag policy, grants, ops and budget, and the convention committee. Again, like everyone has said, if anybody has any reason to contact me, my phone number is in your contact info, and happy to be with you in person.
Thank you, Lisa. Barney Hollinger isn't with us today, but I'd like to make sure he gets represented from Cumberland County, representing the aquaculture industry. And that is the core board members. Dr. Beyer, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hello, everybody. I'm Dr. Ernie Beyer, large animal veterinarian in Gloucester County. My duties on the board include the convention committee, livestock, grants, and a couple other areas. Thank you very much.
Thank you all for introducing yourself. I chose to do things a little bit differently, just because I would like to make sure that we're representing as a united front on this board. And I want to make sure that you can instill the trust and the challenges that we see coming forward out of these resolutions. This is an important time, and I thank you for being here, because these are times where we have to come together and come up with that language that drives us as the board. So I wanted to make sure that you all knew where you could contact everyone and how we could do it. But I do want to say to everyone, today, please take the opportunity to make sure that you thoroughly read through those resolutions. If you have any questions or concerns, you can reach any one of us. If you would like to further it beyond this convention, absolutely. But one of the most important things that I feel in the takeaway is that we take this opportunity to work together and start the grassroots effort from the county boards to our organizations. We need to make sure that we strengthen these areas so that we can actually be a stronger front in the state of New Jersey. You see the changes that are coming down the line, and we all want to stay on the tracks with each other. So please take this opportunity today to take these challenges on, move forward, and please don't be afraid to reach any one of us. It is our job to advocate to this department. So being that, let's get started. Secretary Fisher, would you start your remarks?
Thank you, Dave. It's a pleasure to be here with the board and all of you today. As Dave said, we want to be unified, and I know that we're on our way to really having a remarkable convention and getting a lot of progress, making a lot of progress. First of all, I just want to ask, is the sound about right for everybody? I know sometimes you go, does anybody hear okay? No? Yes? We'll just take a poll. So I hear a little bit, yes, thank you. Okay. Before I make my remarks, though, I'm going to start by introducing a short video from Governor Phil Murphy. I can tell you from working closely with him on a number of agricultural issues, this industry has a good friend in our governor, Governor Murphy. So now let's hear from the governor. Can you roll the video, please?
Hey everybody, Governor Phil Murphy here. It is my pleasure to welcome all of you to this year's New Jersey Agricultural Convention. And I want to give a shout out especially to the terrific Secretary of the Department of Agriculture, Doug Fisher. As the Garden State, New Jersey's agricultural industry is a core part of our state identity and a historic and delicious part of our culture. We are proud to support our farmers through common sense policies like farmland soil preservation and the locally grown bill, which ensures that only produce grown, harvested, and packed right here in New Jersey can be labeled local. As always, there is nothing more local to New Jersey than Jersey Fresh. I also want to express our gratitude and pride in New Jersey's school breakfast program. We are one of only 4 states in the nation to administer this program through our agricultural department, and have gone from ranking nearly last among all 50 states in providing students breakfasts to the top third. Ensuring our students have a nutritious start to their day makes every difference in their health, education, and future. And speaking of the future, New Jersey is moving full steam ahead in returning to our roots as a hub for innovation, and the agriculture industry is no exception. As data, analytics, and metrics play a larger role in farming alongside web-based production methods, I have no doubt that our farmers will be at the forefront of improved efficiency and marketing. New Jersey is truly blessed to have abundant agriculture and a legacy of farming, and ensuring that every New Jersey resident is able to enjoy the wholesome and nutritious food produced on your farms, no matter what part of the state they live in, by the way, is an absolute priority for us. Through the Economic Development Authority, essential funding has been made available for food deserts, and I encourage you to coordinate with the EDA to improve food security across our state. From Jersey tomatoes to blueberries to corn and much, much more, we are so lucky to enjoy the legacy of the Garden State, and we thank you for all you do to ensure its success. I wish you the very best for a successful convention. Thanks to each and every one of you, and God bless you all.
Thank you, Governor. So as I mentioned, we're also glad to be here. And of course, we're facing circumstances that create conditions that we were being required to follow. Many of you saw some of the email chains. We did what's required of us, and I thank you all for complying and making it easy for us to be able to assemble. It's not what we perhaps expected, but in these circumstances, it's remained a part of our lives, frankly, for too long, and it makes us all weary. But regardless of that, we're holding a live event because so many of you expressed the desire to be in person, and I'm grateful for that. With some pulling together from a resource and personnel perspective, gathering in person has presented some challenges, but we've arrived, and we appreciate your cooperation, as I said, your understanding by the participants that are here today. The state of agriculture is as varied as the crops you grow. And all the farm products, including livestock, that you produce. And for the past 2 years, the challenges and yes, the opportunities have whirled like a top. And at times it's been like riding a roller coaster, even more than it usually seems. It's been compounded by factors way beyond what is normal, like the weather and undulating market forces, way beyond that. Things like supply chain slowdowns, labor dropout, parts unavailability, everything being magnified in every rut in the road, including the price of inputs and the supplies that you need, that you're getting those cost increases on a daily basis. But New Jersey farmers are known for their ingenuity and resilience. Now, there's no need to go over the status of each sector of ag, of the ag economy, because you in this room, you live it and you know. The farmers in our states, counties are so connected and interwoven, it would just be an exercise for me to fill space. And most of you know I'm not like that. Likewise, I'm not going to tout the accomplishments or the work produced by so many talented people and dedicated staff in the Department of Agriculture. A lot of folks working for you every day. We just try to keep moving forward, forge ahead, rise above. But make no mistake, there's no room for complacency or even slowing down. The general public is engaged more now than any other time in history, and their needs and their wants and their preferences flow like electrons. Sometimes it's hard to even capture in a cohesive way. It's like imagining if your car had multiple steering wheels and the people behind each one frequently pulled in different direction from the others. That's often what it's like trying to satisfy all consumers at once. In one lifespan, we've gone from, I know in my lifespan, from Life magazine and Walter Cronkite telling me the news to the metaverse of cosmic communication, moving at unimaginable speeds, and just as frequently, not agreeing on anything. A great majority in agriculture continue to do what they've done for generations. So what is that? Produce more as efficiently as possible, get the best yields. But even that is not enough now. For if it was, our farmers who operate on some of the best soils on earth with a dependable climate and atmospherics, great location, and ample water can and do produce amazing results, all of you. This is what got us to where we are today, and it has worked. But now, it's often not enough, because without a reliable market, much of which used to be sealed with just a deal and a handshake, some products become to the point where they're not even worth packing or picking for a lack of price or a willing buyer. Other than a crop failure somewhere else in the world at an opportune time, farmers continue to roll the dice, with the stakes getting much higher year by year. Each year, in one sector or another of agriculture in this state, we'll hear in the department and we'll be asked, do something, do something. We hear it when the prices are low. We hear it when the market's saturated and nobody knows where they're going to be able to send their product or who's going to buy it. We hear that a lot. And of course, it's disheartening and heartbreaking sometimes when you go out in the fields and you look at the crop and you're not even going to harvest it. I've seen it in my own county. I've seen it around the state. It's devastating. But while we can try to make a difference at last, we don't control markets. We try to influence, we try to use persuasion, but it always comes down to who is making what, where, and for whom. So what can we do and you do? So I'm just going to give a couple markers about things that I think would be helpful for all of us in ag. First, we need to remind the public in every way possible, in respectful and appreciative ways, not begging, not scolding, they don't work. Just helping people appreciate that when you support us in agriculture, your patronage is what keeps the garden state. And it's a very nuanced communicated message to communicate. And I know it resonates, but it has to be done in a way that's, as I said, it's not begging and it's not scolding. And it can work and it does work because people do want their farms in our state and they want to support you. We need consumers to ask for real, local Jersey Fresh at their points of purchase and cause the major outlets, the major purveyors of product in the state to know that they have to satisfy that demand because the public is asking for it. That happens in retail markets. If the public wants it, it's going to be there, and the public has to want it. And we have to help them understand, not only do we have believe and appreciate the products that we produce, but also we need the consumers to ask for it. So that's one. It needs you, as I've said for years now, to sign up for Jersey Fresh. Talking Jersey Fresh without belonging to the program does not really help you. And in a sense, many ways, it's disingenuous. Join the program. Join the program. I said it at Farm Bureau, I'm saying it here. It helps us in lots of ways to use that persuasion, to use that power, to use the marketing tools, what we do when you're in part of Jersey Fresh and all the Jersey bred, Jersey grown, all the Jersey programs. It helps. It absolutely works. We know we have the ratings. We know we have the cachet. We study it every year with our monies that are allocated to the federal government to do surveys, and the public wholeheartedly supports it. Now be a part of it, sign up. It's $30. It should be $130, but it's $30. So it's not the money. I know it's not the money. It's a basket of something. When you do sign up, we will get that collective power to advance your interests even better. Next, follow the trends like they do in retail. Learn them and produce what's desired. Rutgers knows what's up and coming. Your agents know this. Try some of these things and the trends. And many have in this room, but many have not. And those that have done it have had great success. The nursery sector, I'll single out to their credit, does change things up all the time when they see a new trend coming. And nursery is our #1 sector in the state, and they do it. We do too in the department. We're trying to change up. We constantly huddle and try to figure out what we can do to work for agriculture, to work for all of you, to work for the people of the state, so that we have agriculture, to make sure that it's as robust as we expect it to be and want it to be. So here we go. Joe Atchison's going to tell you about our ever-evolving campaign this year, and also about the newest feature that we've developed with the state board, Jersey Raised for lives. Is it, Joe, it's raised, right? Right. He's going to talk about that, Jersey Raised for livestock products. Now, I was a butcher. I was a meat cutter. So I know that industry really well. And I think we've really tuned it up. I think you're going to really want to show people that it's going to be great product, that when it ends up on their plate, they're going to say, this is great product, Jersey Raised. Jeff Beech, what are we doing? Jeff Beech is going to encourage you to sign up for one-call phone system alert when an emergency issue is pressing and you need to know the latest to keep you and your family and your farm operations safe. And we saw this during the latest tornado, when we were sending out messages just to the 100 and some people that organizations, and Jeff will explain that later. But we want, if you're in it, wouldn't it be nice to have it come right to you, to your email, that you'd know exactly like that what's available and what you can do and what's needed. So he's going to talk about that. Frank Minch, really exciting. He's going to show you some new tools that we've developed over the years with Rowan for better mapping of farmland assessed properties, and lots of other layers in there that you're going to see on these maps. We learned during the tornado and Ida and other storms that ravage our state that getting your insurance right and really understanding coverages needs more attention by farmers, and that succession is also a really big topic. And we need to focus more and more on these subjects. And you're going to hear from Keith Thurkison, Farm Credit, on those issues. Our partners also have important presentations for you. Rick Reich, did I say Rick after all these years? Reich Sudan is going to talk to you at Farm Bureau how working together as a unified ag community is the best way, almost the only way, to make sure that we get positive outcomes. You know, when Farm Bureau said we support Jersey local, when they said that by a resolution, and the state board said, we also think the governor should sign it, it gave us the great ability to ask the governor to sign it. Because guess what? There were a lot of people that didn't want him to sign it in parts of our industry, not in farming, in other parts, where they saw that as a problem. The governor signed it. I'm appreciative of it. And it's because of the work that you've done and because of the support that we got. And of course, we're going to hear from Brian, who's going to tell us his team is, Brian Schilling, his team is ever engaged at every level on your farms with Rutgers as our land grant school. So he's going to fill you with all those developments. We're also going to have a session, a lightning session. I don't know, I kind of just asked for it. We'll see how it goes. And Joe's going to head that up, talking about some of the successes that maybe you've had, that maybe you'd like everybody in this room to know about, that can share, that can work where you are, right? So just something quick, and might get a spark from some of the producers' experiences. Lastly, when it comes to this year's resolutions, let's dig in and rank them where you as delegates want our priorities to be focused. Really, really, the ones that are really prominent, the ones that we can say, yes, this is something that's extraordinarily important to us in ag. We need this. That, in the unity, is how, as I said, how we got the locally grown against the pressure of others. If you come away with one new idea or one new connection, it's a successful convention. Allow yourself to be open. As I said at Farm Bureau, to come out of your comfort zone at times. Don't just always do what you've always done. Leave that comfort zone and allow yourself to be open. And when you hear tonight's speaker, who the board brought on for us to hear, I'm sure they'll bring you a new idea, something you hadn't thought about before. And we're all looking forward to that. So that's my plea. Just have an open mind from each and every person in this room today. Once again, it's thrilled that we're all here to be able to meet in person. It really does mean a lot. And let's get started. So thank you very much. Okay, I'm going to do the roll call now for the delegates to the 2022 State Ag Convention. Ready? Atlantic County, John Vanini. Thank you. Frank Shosteen. For Bergen County, Darrell Sector. Is it Secor? Secor, yep. James Abna, Sr. Burlington County, Bill Pettit, Jr. Roger Kumpel. Cape May, Frank Germanio. Jerry Futrell. Thank you. Cumberland, Tim Ekus. Keith Beckendale. Essex, Frank Yaslavovich. Gloucester, Mary Lynn Shiles. Diane Beyer. Hunterdon, Jeffrey Bowlby. David Bond. Dave Bond. Hi, Dave. Mercer County, John Hart. Frank Janey. Middlesex, Bill Griffin. Jim Maurice. Monmouth, George Espacolas. Gary DeFelice. Morris, Brant Davis. Dan Ferran. Ocean, Rick Wenzel. Passaic, Bruce Corbett. Somerset, John Knox. Matt Stiles. Sussex County, Phil Brodiker. Mike Berger. Warren County, Mitchell Jones. Tracy Smith. State and Pomona Granges. The State Grange of New Jersey, John Benedict. Atlantic County, Martha Poling. Cumberland, Robert Poling. Hunterdon, Richard Sarland. Monmouth, Joan Smith. Warren, Tim Matthews. Agriculture Fair Association of New Jersey, Denise Dabinet. American Cranberry Association, Bill Cutts. Board of Managers, NJAS, Pat Butch. Rutgers School of Environmental Biological Sciences, Brian Schilling. Cultivated Sod, New Jersey, Alan Carter. Garden State Seafood, Robert Weinerspan. Garden State Sheep Breeders, Brittany Smith. Grain Forage Producers, New Jersey, Scott Klukas. Horse Parker, New Jersey at Stone Tavern, Rich Clark. New Jersey Ag Society, Rich Norris. New Jersey Angus Association, Bob Mickle. New Jersey Aquaculture Association, Matt Gregg. New Jersey Association Agriculture Educators, Christine Gattadora. Yes? Hi. New Jersey Beef Council, Rick Gardner. New Jersey Beekeepers Association, Jeffrey Bird. New Jersey Blueberry Association, Denny Doyle. New Jersey FFA Association, Laurie Nyhart. New Jersey Farm Bureau, Reich Sedan. New Jersey Farmers Direct Marketing Association, Anna Trapani. New Jersey Forestry Association, Elmer Platts. New Jersey Holstein Freestein Association, Melanie Richmond. New Jersey Horse Council, Susan Rothermel. New Jersey Landscape Contractors Association, Chuck Bacon. New Jersey Nursery and Landscape Association, Steve Wagner. New Jersey Nursery and Landscape Association, Metropolitan Chapter, Ed Overdevest. New Jersey Peach Promotion Council, Lee DiEugeno, Dr. DiEugeno. New Jersey Plant and Flower Growers Association, Skip Bartlett. New Jersey Polled Hereford Association, AJ Stahelski. New Jersey Quarter Horse Association, Gail Mastromonco. New Jersey Soybean, Rick Hatz. New Jersey State Horticultural Society, John Hauser. New Jersey Veterinary Association, Dr. Eric Cates. Northeast Organic Farming Association, New Jersey, Callie Alexander. Outer Coastal Plain Vineyard Association, Mark Hernandez. Standardbred Breeders Owners Association, New Jersey, Taylor Palmer. Thoroughbred Breeders Association, New Jersey, Michael Campbell. Vegetable Growers Association, New Jersey, Angelo Trapani. Let's see. That's it, Chairman. I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Secretary. The official committees and their chairs for this convention are as follows. Resolution Committee, William Cutts, Chairman. Nominating Committee to elect 2 members from the State Board of Agriculture, Scott Klukas, Chairman, John Vanini, Vice Chairman. And Credentials Committee, Holly Seipner, Chair. I will not read the names of the committee members. Instead, I hereby declare that the committees as listed are the official ones for this convention. I will now call Holly to give her report on the credentials.
Mr. President, the Credentials Committee has met to review the certificate of election forms provided by the various agricultural organizations for the delegates attending this convention. We find all the certificates to be in order. Therefore, I move that this report of the Credentials Committee be accepted.
Thank you, Holly. Turning now to convention business. In your delegates binder, you will find all of the submitted resolutions. In the interest of time, the Resolutions Committee has identified several resolutions which they believe can be passed on the consent calendar tomorrow. Please review the resolutions which are behind the marked tab in your binder. Talk with a member of the Resolutions Committee about any resolutions you might like to have taken off the consent calendar and discussed by the entire delegate body tomorrow morning. There will be a meeting of the Resolution Committee in this room immediately following today's convention session. The remaining resolutions will be discussed in numerical order throughout today and tomorrow. These resolutions address some of the key policy issues which will impact the viability of our industry as we go forward. As I stated earlier, I encourage you to speak up and give us your thoughts on these important issues. Our Secretary of Agriculture, Doug Fisher, and all members of the State Board are interested in hearing your comments and getting your best thinking on each of these issues. Together, we will develop strategies that are in the best interest of the Garden State's agriculture and New Jersey citizens. If you want to bring an additional resolution forward that can be offered from the floor in the following way. Put your resolution in writing and present it to the Resolution Committee immediately following after this meeting. The procedure is outlined in the yellow pages in the delegates binder in the resolution section. I would like a discussion of the resolutions to be fair to everyone. Therefore, we will be following Robert's Rules of Order. In your binder, you have a brief description of how to utilize the most frequently used rules. Our Parliament, I always mess this up, I'm sorry. Parliament, I'm a little nervous. Dan Wonderly will be reviewing basic procedures of discussion.
In everybody's binder, you have the tab with discussion. The 2 pages in front of that tab, first one tells you how the procedure for presenting another motion onto the floor, as the chair had indicated. Then in the goldenrod page has the quick sheet for Robert's Rules of Order that we'll be working with. If you have something to amend or move, you rise, obtain permission from the chair, go to the microphones, state your point. There'll be a motion, a second, discussion, and then votes. If there are amendments to anything, the amendments are taken care of first, and then the main motion is taken care of. We'll keep this moving forward. We try to work it in a way that, no harm, no foul. So everything is accomplished and move forward. If there is something out of order, we'll point that out and we'll move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Does anybody have any questions at this time? If nobody has any questions, I would like to ask Secretary Fisher to come to the podium again.
Okay, well, I spoke to this earlier, so we're just going to bring up Jeff Beech. Jeff, where are you going to speak? You're going to speak from here, right? Yeah. Okay. And as I said to you, it's about communication. And basically what we all the time hear is issues, all of us. And one of the, we all have these issues that we hear repeatedly over and over again. And one of them is communication, right? Sometimes, in fact, that's why we're meeting in person, because we know it's better communication when we're here together than when we sometimes sit in Zoom for 24/7, 2.5 years, I think. And this is an example of that communication, as I said, about when something hits and we want to get out to every farmer in the state as fast as we can, as quick as we can, the right information. Lastly, before I just say, as you recall, when COVID first hit, the one thing we wanted to do in the department was make sure that the page that we presented, that it was a straight line, that you knew exactly if it was coming from the Department of Agriculture, from the Office of the Secretary, you knew you could count on that, you could bank on that, because someone in an official capacity was saying whatever it was that you could do that would be either required of you or something you could take advantage of. And understand and communicate. So Jeff, if you would.
Okay, good morning. Can everybody hear me okay? All right, I was asked to give a few brief remarks this morning about the department's role in emergencies and how we communicate about those, and I will be as brief as I possibly can be. The department, we deal with emergency planning and response in addition to all the other normal things that we do. We do this in two broad categories. One is preparing for agricultural related emergencies. By that, I mean we have plans to deal with things like widespread animal disease, foot and mouth, avian influenza. We even have a separate plan for bee spills. A truck loaded up with beehives happens to roll over on 295 or Turnpike. We've got a plan to deal with that. As far as responding to, also responding to things like invasive species, Asian longhorn beetle, or more recently, the spotted lanternfly. So those are the things that are directly related to ag. The second category is broader, and it's more about weather emergencies or any kind of natural disaster that might happen. Hurricane, a snowstorm, or as the Secretary said, most recently a large and devastating tornado that went through in South Jersey. This second category of the responses poses the biggest challenge for us in terms of getting the word out, because there's, in a lot of these cases, there's not a lot of time to prepare. It's a snowstorm, hurricane, you got maybe a day, day and a half, something like that tornado popping up. There's just no time to prepare for this. So whatever type of emergency it involves, the best tool we have is to be communicative, to get out the word, whatever words we can get out to help people. We reach out through social media, through the quote unquote old media, which makes me feel old because I used to be part of the old media. We can get helpful information out there as much as we can quickly. And we've also in the past have done this through what we call the 4 key groups. It's State Board of Ag, County Ag Boards, the New Jersey Farm Bureau, and Rutgers Extension agents to try to get them to take our messages out to their lists of people. And this can be effective, but it's not as effective. What we realized after this tornado going through was it's not as effective as being able to reach directly to each of you right out at your farm. So we've begun to talk about what we're referring to as a one-call system. That's the name that's also used for state employees. So you get basically a robocall that says, offices are closed tomorrow, offices will open an hour late, something like that. We want to be able to do that to all farmers in the state who want to take part in this. This is not going to be any kind of mandatory system. We want to get alerts out for if things are getting worse because of the weather, or shelters are being established. If some of our plans include county fairgrounds being used as a place where livestock can be sheltered if it's not safe for them to shelter in place. So those are the kinds of things that we would be looking to push out through this one-call system. You get a direct call. We want to start just with the phone calls, see how that goes. I can assure you this is only going to be about emergency communications. Nobody from the department is going to call you and say, hey, your tractor warranty is just about to expire, or try to get you to change cell phone carrier. That's not what this is. This is about emergencies. So we're looking for your feedback as to whether you'd want to be part of that kind of system and receive those kind of phone calls. So it will also be helpful for us. It's a two-way channel to be able to get that feedback. What's it look like in your area? So those are the kinds of things we're talking about here. Looking for your feedback. Appreciate it.
So, does anybody have any? So we know sometimes that people don't want lists generated. They get scared of lists because they feel like it's going to be used in some way that they frankly just don't want to be bothered with or don't want to be on that list. So we're going to start in baby steps in terms of if you want in an emergency to be on that list, it's voluntary if you want it, and you'll know that it'll come to your door. And it's a list that if we do not believe has to be shared by us. In other words, it's a list because it's considered to be
Under emergency management.
under emergency management and security. We get to sort of keep that under lock and key. Now, does any, this is the time. This is the time when you start thinking it doesn't have to be this second, but we would like to know if there's interest. If there's not, we'll just move on and do something else, and not do something else. We just won't do that. But we think that it's a good way for us to communicate in a much more instant fashion where you would know immediately what's available. Because we saw things that people didn't know that was available to them or didn't realize that other farmers had this issue similar to theirs in a particular circumstance. So it's for the emergencies. It's the two areas that Jeff spoke of. Frankly, I would love, and will never happen, I'd love to have a list of all 10,000 farms in the state, because then we could send messages about lots of things to all of you. But there's a big fear in the community that they don't want that list to be generated. Some states do it. Our state doesn't. But I want you to know, I like to lay all the cards out on the table, let you know what some of the possibilities are, but then you have to tell us what some of the pitfalls or the downfalls are and why you don't want or don't want to or won't participate in this emergency situation where you would get a message right to email. So anybody have any questions for Jeff? Go ahead, take it.
That's it. Thank you very much.
No,
Oh, I'm sorry, this question. Okay.
Yeah, Tracy Smith, Warren County.
Hi, Tracy.
Will that include, like, if there's an outbreak, for example, avian influenza or something of that, where
Yes.
we would be okay,
Yeah, that's one of the two areas that we do the response for.
okay,
One is ag-related stuff like that kind of
Okay.
avian influenza. The other is the weather events.
perfect. Thank you. I think that's a great idea.
Thank you. I'm just looking for feedback. If you want to just, buttonhole us and say, hey, I think that's great, or hey, I would never be a part of that because I don't want to be on a list, Who would, a show of hands for who might be interested in it. Pretty good response. Okay. Great. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Another question. Go ahead.
Yeah, Phil Broadhecker. I just wanted to make sure I was checked in his attendance today. I missed roll call. And then one comment, I just want to make sure that the list stays within Department of Ag and it's not shared with other departments of the states, and that mandates from the governor are not imposed upon anyone on the list specifically.
We're approaching this as a phone call so that it isn't something where we're maintaining a list of emails or something like that. So yes.
Thank you. By the way, if there's anything you don't like hearing today, just pick these up. Okay, now we're going to bring up Joe Atchison, Assistant Secretary Joe Atchison. And he's going to give you a complete review along with his team on the Jersey Fresh Marketing Review. We're really excited about the campaign. So we're going to do a review.
All right. Well, of course, now the secretary tells you to throw things after Jeff's done, and I'm coming up. So I just wanted to review a little bit of what we did last year from a marketing standpoint for Jersey Fresh. The majority of our funding comes from a specialty crop block grant that some of you are familiar with. I see a lot of the organizations that have applied and received grants from that organization. Right now, the application period for specialty crop block grant is open right now. It's on our Jersey Fresh or on our Department of Agriculture website. And if you're an organization that might have need for and grow or produce specialty crops or do research for specialty crops, I would encourage you to apply. I think the deadline is April 1st. So take a look at that, and we'll be happy to have the state board then review all the submissions. But in looking back from the past year, in 2020, we converted to a lot more online and social media because people weren't in their cars, they weren't out on the roads, they weren't listening to the radio in their cars. So we sort of throttled down in 2020 a little bit, but 2021 saw some great improvement. We covered lots of billboards on all the most heavily traveled roads in New Jersey, and quite frankly, some of those roads are the most heavily traveled in the country. So we like to get that visual out there. It's a big impact, high color graphics. Broadcast radio, we sponsor traffic and weather sponsorships on 9 town square media radio stations. And I don't know about you, but a lot of times the radio's on as background noise. But if you're traveling on the weekends, or you're headed to the shore, you're headed out, when they're talking about the traffic and the weather, that's when people turn up the radio and pay a little bit more attention. So that's why we sponsor those segments, so we can capture people a little bit more closely. Obviously, as things progress, and we talked about innovation, Facebook, Instagram, social media, a lot of that out there, connected TV, Google Display. And one of the favorite things is aerial banners flying over the shore. I know I got lots of texts and photos from people laying on the beach saying, hey, I just saw your banner. So it's a great visual. People are sitting there and the plane flies right in front of them. There's no way they're missing that message. We did some work with Blueberry and Peach Councils. We partnered with them, and we did a nice giveaway program this year. And I'll talk a little bit more about that shortly. So some of the creative is, in 2020, people were lining up at our retail markets. People were everywhere because maybe they didn't want to go to supermarkets. Maybe supermarkets didn't have what they wanted. So people were demanding local and going to our local farm markets more than ever. We saw lines of people waiting to get in. And so, in 2020, everybody loved local. So our message in 2021 was, hey, you loved us last year, stay loyal to local this year. And so that was out of the gate. That was some of our initial creative, some of our initial messaging. Lots of different products, because that's the great thing about these digital billboards, is we're able to flex and rotate creative with just a week's notice. Not like the old days where it took weeks just to produce a vinyl banner that you threw up on the billboard, and it stayed the same all season long. So as the seasons progressed and different crops came in, we had different products. Fall, oh, look at there, Secretary Fisher. Fall in love with Jersey Fresh, and and get real local. These were some of the things where we were seeing people saying the word local, and thanks to Senator Sweeney, the governor, the state board, the Farm Bureau, everybody pushing for that. We now know that if you want to call it local, locally grown, locally produced, it's got to be grown within New Jersey's borders. And that's going to be sort of the direction we take. We're working with the ad agency now on our messaging for this year, and sort of equating with the fact that if you see the word local, it better be from in New Jersey. And so we'll be working on that. So for Billboard, we had 150 million impressions. That's sets of eyeballs that have seen the message. It might be somebody that drives up and down the turnpike every day and has seen it 12 times, but 150 million impressions in a state of 9 million people is very good results for us. Here's just an overview of the radio. We mostly ran Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, when people were more likely to be out traveling, more likely to be out and stop and visit a roadside stand, farm market. And so a total of almost 2,600 spots were placed throughout the season. different types of products that we covered throughout the radio spots that were all recorded by Secretary Fisher and ran throughout the season, promoting all the different products. Broadcast radio, 14 million impressions. I want to bore you with digital campaign, Facebook, social media, connected TV with native programming, and Google Display Ad Network. That's, when you Google search something and a little ad pops up along the side or across the top. We ran several of those on various platforms. But the display ads, this is something that was interesting for me. Ads that came out on weekdays that were issued between 7 and 8 p.m. got the most results. I don't know why that is, but that's when we saw the click-through. That's when we saw. So if you're putting up social media posts or running ads, 7 to 8 p.m. is the magic hour, apparently. We saw click-throughs on all the other areas as well, but for some reason, 7 to 8 p.m. really worked. I guess people are home, they finish dinner, they sit down, they relax, and they want to take a look at their devices. Social media ads, we came in with a click-through rate of 1.13%, and that's actually, it doesn't sound like a lot, but that's actually very good for a click-through rate on social media. Typically, you're closer to like half a percentage point. With that, female 65 plus were the top performing demo for this outlet for social. As Secretary alluded to, we do an awareness tracking study at the end of every season with a third-party research company, and so we get a lot of that information. So here's some of the creative that we ran on the banner ads. And that got us another 18 million impressions. In print, we do for consumer-facing print, we only run in edible jersey because we think that that's a high-level, high-end publication where more people that are geared towards being foodies or more interested in fresh food and recipes, that's where they find it. And otherwise, we run in a bunch of industry trade magazines that go to a lot of the supermarket retail buyers. So total results for us for the year were paid impressions. We had 167 million in paid impressions. A lot of times they'll leave the ad up or they'll run us bonus spots. So we get another 23 million for a total of 190 million impressions overall through the campaign. Denny Doyle, I know you're out there. We partnered with Blueberry, and Blueberry has our Jersey Fresh logo on their messaging. And so that way we're maximizing our dollars and their dollars by partnering together. And so we had Peach Council and Blueberry Council both working with us to promote their products. And so they were able to leverage our buying power by partnering with us. We also did a social media thing with Chef Amanda Freitag, who's on Food Network. She's a nationally known chef. And we did a series of videos, 20 different videos called Jersey Fresh 4 Ways. It was a simple recipe, a cooking tip, a more complex recipe, and then an overview for each different type of product that we were running. And we were very pleased with the results of that program, and we're looking for additional chefs for the coming seasons so that we can sort of make this a regular thing. Not right now. No, not handy. Well, we talked a little bit about the survey, and these are some of the results, and I'm not going to read all of this. But of the people that were aware of Jersey Fresh, 3/4 aware of Jersey Fresh products, and almost 2/3 were purchasing Jersey Fresh products. We survey in Manhattan, Philadelphia, the 5-county region of along our border, and then throughout South, Central, and Northern New Jersey. It's been for years that the South is our strongest recognition, and that's not different. One of the things we saw this year was Manhattan really jumped up. We had awareness of 39% in 2020, and that's jumped to 58% in 2021. So when we have these banners and the billboards and stuff coming right over the bridge or through the tunnels, people are seeing our messaging. Those who are aware of Jersey Fresh, if you look at some of these national brands, Jersey Fresh had an opinion of excellent or very good, which outranked or matched a lot of these national brands like Chiquita, Dole, Ocean Spray, Del Monte. And so we're very pleased that people who know Jersey Fresh really consider it to be excellent or very good. Secretary talked about this earlier. We're very pleased, after many, many years working on this, to introduce Jersey raised for livestock. We worked with the Livestock Committee of the State Board. Rutgers is doing research. We have a great resource for livestock in Dan Wonderly in the department, and he's a great asset that helped us put this all together. In booth 417, literally right behind this wall, in the trade show, we have all the details printed out, and on March 1st, the application will be online to join this pilot program. It's an 18-month pilot program that we're going to roll out, and we encourage people to, if you do any meets on your operation, to look into it, and we'll be happy to answer any questions. We'll be around all day. But there's a lot of detailed information on that, and I don't want to go over all that now. Just keep moving along. So that's what I have. I appreciate the time, and thank you very much. Are there any questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Moving on to the voting session, I'm going to call Chairman Bill Cutts to the podium. While Chairman's coming to the podium, I will discuss his duties. Introduce the resolution to the convention body. Receive the motion and amendments that are associated with the resolution. Receive the discussion as it relates to the resolution on the floor. Call for the vote of each motion and amendments, all in accordance with Robert's rules. Thank you, Chairman.
It's really nice to see faces out there instead of a blank screen. Just a few things before we get started. If you haven't done it already, would you please put your cell phone on vibrate or turn it off, whatever your choice is. I'm sure if you've read through the resolutions, you've found some typos and grammatical errors and editing errors. We work really hard to try and avoid them, but some of them sneak through. We are not going to deal with them in this discussion. If you run across them, I'd appreciate it if you would just make a list of them and give that list to either Jeff or me, so that we can make sure that the final product that comes out of this is as good as can be. This is our public face, and we want to make it as attractive as possible. Those of you that are new to the convention, Jeff is over here. You just heard him give a presentation on the one call. I am going to read the resolution, the now therefore part of the resolution. I'm not going to read the whereas portions. However, if you have a problem with any of the whereases, you can raise that problem in the discussion. As I said, we want these to be as complete as possible. If you wish to participate in this discussion, please come to the microphone and identify yourself. If you know in advance that you're going to want to propose an amendment or a change in a resolution, if possible, if you could get your proposed language to Jeff before we get to that resolution, he can have that ready and be prepared. It will make life easier on all of us and make the process go more smoothly. If you have a resolution that you want to take off of the consent calendar, or if you want to bring a resolution to the floor that's not included in this packet, Please come to the Resolutions Committee meeting this afternoon after this session, right here in this room, so that we can discuss that. It will make, again, life much easier for all of us if we can talk about that ahead of time and get that process set in place. So, having said all those things, we are going to begin with resolution number 1, New Jersey One Health Program, found at page 1 of your binder. I will begin reading at page 2, line 33. Now therefore be it resolved that we, the delegates to the 107th State Agricultural Convention assembled in Atlantic City, New Jersey on February 9 and 10, 2022, do hereby support the New Jersey One Health Program being an integral part of how the department and division participate in emergency planning and response in the state. Be it further resolved that we strongly urge the legislature and the governor to consider the additional expense and workload to the department and division in taking on this new task, and to bear those costs in mind when establishing funding for the program in the department's annual budget. Do I have a motion to adopt the resolution? I have a motion. Do we have a second? We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed, please say no. The resolution is adopted. We'll now move to resolution number 2, definition of locally grown, found at page 3 of your packet. I will begin reading at line 27 on page 4. Now therefore be it resolved that we, the delegates to the 107th State Agricultural Convention, assembled in Atlantic City, New Jersey on February 9 and 10, 2022, do hereby express support and gratitude to Senator Sweeney and the legislature for passing this bill, and to Governor Murphy for signing it into law. Do I have a motion to adopt the resolution? I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Jim.
Well, we finally made it. Those who are in support of it. I know it's somewhat controversial, but I guess I have a question, and that is it up to the department to come up with regs and enforcement? And I don't know if anybody can answer that.
Joe Atchison, is Joe here? Still here? Joe duck out on us?
Yes, it is up to the department. Now, it's in the legislation that the department will, that has actually the ability to fine if there are violators. They're pretty stiff fines. Now, our goal is that we never have to fine anyone. We don't want to. We're not looking to, but we will, if in fact that happens. That's what the legislation orders us to do.
Okay, well, enforcement's going to be a big key, especially early. But I really think you guys are doing a good job, and Joe with Jersey Fresh. But in the end, you really have to convince the consumer, because the retailer is going to do everything he can to make a buck. But the demand is on the consumer side, and to link that and to get that understanding through to the retailer. So I'm glad to see that it passed, and it's not exactly what we thought of a few years ago, but I think it's going to move things down the road. I know a lot of guys are concerned, and the whole intent was to help many wholesale growers. The retail growers, the pick your own or farm markets seem to do fine. So just caution the state board, take your time, be diligent, and try to get it right.
Thank you, Jim. I'm just going to make a comment as to that. So what happens is we all, you know, when you say the consumer, but it falls on the purveyor. So the consumer comes in and is listening to a message that someone is giving. It says that this product is local. And if you recall, local meant lots of different things to lots of different operations. Some, it was wherever their stores were, that's what they considered local. Some considered local to be whatever the USDA said, which was, I think, 400 miles. There were lots of different definitions of local, and the public gets confused. And so we're going to really drill down. If you're talking about us, the first thing we're going to do is drill down and say, understand if someone calls it local, it's going to be grown in New Jersey. Now, are there going to be violators? I mean, are there going to be people that ignore it? Maybe, but if we get the call, we're going to check it out, because that's the crux, that's the essence of this. The consumer has no responsibility to tell you how they're going to buy. He or she is going to buy. It's the purveyor, and that's why this bill is so important. Because now when you see ads that say, here's local, and it's somebody that's one farmer's in Maine and another farmer's in Rhode Island, and this one's in Virginia, and it's all local, it's not. Now, you can say it's local from Virginia. I think that's how we're doing it. Right, Joe? You can say it's local. You can still call it local if you tell where it's from. But you can't just say local and hope that they think it's from New Jersey. That's what's going to benefit our growers, we think. And that's why I said in my remarks, we have to convince them that the public, they want it. They'll give them what they want, but they have to want it. So there's two parts to this. It's sort of bad messaging or improper messaging and marketing and demand. They're the two, and we're trying to balance that out. And so we've already gotten calls from a number of operations. They're like, whoa, wait a minute. You know, this is different this is real. Yes, it's real. It's local. It's New Jersey.
Rich, go ahead.
So this question is just for Doug, knowing that this has gone back quite a long time and working on it. Back when I was on the board and Jim was there also, how are the buyers in handling this? I mean, I know this is legislated now, so they don't have a lot of choice, but there was a tremendous amount of pushback 4 or 5 years ago, 6 years ago when we were doing this. Are they happy enough to be buying from our producers? Sure. Because 5 years ago, they said, you're out, we're not buying from you if this goes through.
That's correct. So that is, we don't know yet, honestly. We do know, though, that the growers and producers on the larger scale operations were saying, we're ready to roll the dice. I mean, that's why you all supported this. The threats that were given, and there were some threats like, we'll show them, we're not buying any of their product from New Jersey, right? But that's why I say the message is one part, but the consumer demand is the other. They won't say no if people are asking for it. That's why I'm asking you to join Jersey Fresh. That's why I'm asking you to allow us to put as much muscle as we can into the X millions of impressions that you heard Joe talk about. And so they may be veiled threats, they may be real threats, but I will tell you one other part to this. And as you know, you were there. Some of the larger buying operations, maybe they weren't running it through their warehouses, but their stores were running it up. They were picking it up from these farmers that they knew locally because they wanted to sell Jersey product because their consumers were asking for it. So the warehouse, on the one hand, some of the warehouses say, we'll give you these stores of whoever they belong to in their co-op or their association or their whatever it is. You can buy some of this product locally. You don't have to go through the warehouse. Some of that happens. On the other side, we want it to be in the warehouse in some of the large operations so they can feed it through the whole system. So the threat, nobody can guarantee that what you're suggesting, Rich, couldn't happen. It can. But I think we heard loud enough, all of us, that basically the farmers in the state said, we support it. We're going to go with local. Let's hope it works. Okay.
Any further discussion?
Would like to thank Doug for picking us up again, the state board for picking up again. We were quite vocal and it did divide the group when it was first brought up many years ago. I do see at this time, though, there's two components that have to be addressed along with the passing of this. The education component needed to bring the stores, the vendors, and everybody on board about the rules, and the staffing and the money that's going to be needed by your department to make this a viable program. If it doesn't have teeth, it's not going to be strong. So I think initially right now in this resolution, you should do just like we did in the resolution 1 that just passed, is add the necessary needs of the department, whether it's staff, dollars, but we know that all of them are going to be needed to make this initially work. So I do believe, like Jimmy pointed out, this first year is going to be a learning curve on both sides, and I think you got to be prepared. And if you don't prepare and have the funds and the personnel available at the onset, it could fail right off from the beginning there. So I would encourage to add something that to the resolution that would at least give you the ability to perform what the legislation with this bill has asked you to do. Thank you.
Hang on just a second, just because I'm assuming you're proposing that as an amendment to the resolution. So Jeff is working on some language here. I'm sorry? Okay, can you just hold your question until we work through this amendment, please? I'm sorry, what's BEI? Okay, I hate acronyms. Okay, so the proposed language that we have up here, I want to make sure it's all right with our proposer. Be it further resolved that we urge the legislature and the governor to support additional funding in the state budget to ensure effective implementation and enforcement of this program. Does that meet what you?
Yeah, I think two sides I was looking at, education and enforcement, okay? Because we know both of them are going to be important. To roll out something like this, I think education and the preparedness of whether it's, literature, rules and everything like that, you're going to have to actually visit all these stores to get them on board.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
So hang on just a second, that we urge the legislature and governor to support additional funding in the state budget to ensure effective education, implementation, and enforcement of this program. So you're moving that as an amendment. Do I have a second? I have a motion and a second for the language shown on red on the screen, in red on the screen. Is there any discussion on the proposed amendment? Are you moving to the microphone or? Yeah, I guess so. Okay.
Just to make sure that the funding goes correctly, I'd like to insert on line 32, after the word funding, in the Department of Agriculture state budget, just so it comes to the Department of Agriculture and doesn't end it up somewhere else in the state budget.
Okay. Does the mover of the initial amendment consent to that addition? Okay. All right, so the language that we're voting on is that we urge the legislature and governor to support additional funding in the state budget for the department to ensure the effective education, implementation, and enforcement of this program. Any further discussion on this amendment? Department of Agriculture. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the amendment, please say aye. Any opposed, please say no. The amendment is adopted. We'll move back now to discussion of the full resolution, and we had a comment in the back. I don't know whether we can get a microphone back there.
I'm sorry, I'm such a bother.
That's okay.
Let's just say that you have all locally grown stuff on your stand, but maybe there's some product that you get, say, from New York. If it's local, but then you specify on that product from New York, would that still in some way qualify then for being locally grown?
If you want to hand the microphone back to Joe, I think he can answer.
Yes. Yeah, the Division of Markets is tasked with the enforcement of this, and I think the Secretary already covered it, our approach, and we appreciated the concerns. And John, your concern about funding for additional people, initially, at least right out of the gate, this will be reactive. We count on the eyes and ears. If you see anything, we're happy to respond. Typically within 24 hours, we have somebody at that location, and we check receipts and see where they're sourcing it. So, until we get some additional feet on the ground, that will be our approach.
So what we're hopeful is that everybody plays ball and makes it, the way to make it work is to have integrity in the program, right? So in some cases, there have been, roadside operators or farm stand operators that have a local section. It's local, it's Jersey, might not be Jersey Fresh. They might not say Jersey Fresh. We hope they do, but because it's grade A or better. But let's say that they bring it in, it's all local, except they brought something from, across the river and they brought it over and they put it with that. We're counting on the purveyors, the farmers, the farm stands to say, yeah, that's local, but it's local from Pennsylvania, or it's local from New York. That's what we're hopeful for. Because if you essentially just roll it all together, it sort of defeats it again. So the farmers also have to do what they're asking all the operators to do that aren't farmers, to sell local product. Local means it's from New Jersey. Now, if I was in that stand, or you were in that stand and you walked over and there was no Jersey product, or you didn't have it on your farm, you needed it because you want to have a full, you want to have a full stand. Okay, just tell them where it's from. It's not the end of the world, but it's not local the way we define it in New Jersey. It's local from somewhere else. And that's what we're hopeful for. So, everybody could be putting up signs wherever it's coming from. And generally the public, they sort of want to know where it's coming from, right? And this just tells them that.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Any further discussion? So before we vote on this, I just want to say, if you flip back over and look at the last whereas on page 3, you'll see that it's references that the governor had until January 20th to sign this bill and everything. One of the problems that we have, this resolution process starts in mid-November. And a lot of things are still in flux by then, and we have to build that into the resolutions. So since this bill has been adopted, I would like to, by common consent, let the staff clean up that language to reflect that the bill has been adopted. And if no one has an objection to doing that by common consent, I will instruct the staff to do so. Any objection? I didn't think so. Thank you. So, any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed, please say no. The resolution as amended is adopted. It was a much calmer discussion and more fruitful discussion than we had about 6 or 8 years ago on that. Thank you. So we will now move to resolution number 3, rural telecommunications, found at page 5 of your packet. I will begin reading on page 7 at line 62. Now therefore, be it resolved that we, the delegates to the 107th State Agricultural Convention, assembled in Atlantic City, New Jersey on February 9th and 10th, 2022, do hereby wholeheartedly support the proposed creation and work of the NJBPU office to concentrate on bringing reliable broadband communications to New Jersey's rural areas, where it will have significant positive impact upon farm operations' ability to use internet-based applications in both the production and marketing of agricultural products, and will enhance research and outreach efforts at the rural experiment stations of Rutgers University Extension Service. Be it further resolved that we urge the State Board and the Department of Agriculture to continue exploring ways in which adequate and reliable high-speed internet, landline, and broadband service can be brought to New Jersey's rural communities, so that the state's farmers will be better positioned to maximize the opportunities for direct-to-the-public marketing of their agricultural products, online promotion of their agritourism events, and the use of technology overall to improve the efficiency and viability of their farms. Be it further resolved that we strongly urge the department, working within its role in the new BPU multi-agency effort, or through any other state or federal funding opportunities, to pursue all avenues for bringing reliable broadband communications to underserved rural areas in the state. Do I have a motion to adopt the resolution? I have a motion. Do we have a second? And a second. We have discussion.
Mitchell Jones, Warren County. I have a concern about line maintenance and hazards to farm equipment. So if on line 36, where it speaks to adequate infrastructure or a well-maintained copper network. Yes. Continue to see low-hanging lines on roads that our equipment travels. In fact, I myself have had to tie pink ribbons on them for weeks. Because otherwise operators don't notice them. You're going down the road dealing with traffic. You don't have to be dealing with 10-foot wires also while you're pulling equipment. And I'm not against a wireless network, but I would like on the next line, a reliable wireless network. Because when our phone lines do go out on the copper, they come and tell us that, well, we're going to put this little box on the house, and that's how your wire phone line is going to work. Well, it doesn't work. That's why I have a copper line. So, and to go with that, on the following page on line 72, where it says landline, I would like to including landline maintenance so that there's an ask there also.
Line 72, Jeff, maintenance after the word landline.
If we could make that including line maintenance. I understand that Verizon, in my case, doesn't want to maintain something that they think they're going to do away with, but if it's there, they have to maintain it. It's a hazard. So that's my motion.
Okay, so could you scroll back up to 36, Jeff? So we have, I think these are related closely enough that we can do them all as one amendment. So at line 36, the proposed amendment is to insert well-maintained after the phrase infrastructure 4A. And on line 37, to insert the word reliable following be transition 2A. And then at line 72, to insert the word maintenance following the word landline. Do I have a second to this proposed amendment? I have a motion and a second to make the amendments as discussed and shown on the screen. Is there any discussion on the proposed amendments? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed, please say no. The resolution is amended. We go back to discussion on the full resolution. Any further discussion on the full resolution? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed, please say no. The resolution as amended is adopted. We'll now move to resolution number 4, farm equipment and highway safety, found at page 8 of your packet. I will begin reading at line 14 on page 8. Now therefore be it resolved that we, the delegates to the 107th State Agricultural Convention assembled in Atlantic City, New Jersey on February 9th and 10th, 2022, do hereby direct the department to increase messaging about highway safety around farm equipment on the road through all messaging channels, including social media such as Facebook, the department website, etc., and including a video produced by the department about road safety around farm equipment that could be played at Motor Vehicle Commission offices statewide. Be it further resolved that we direct the department to endeavor to have these messages inserted in the driver's education programs in schools throughout the state, including the use of the video mentioned above and the creation of a pamphlet or other materials on the issue. Be it further resolved that funds should be identified that could facilitate the placement of more signage on roads where farm equipment is likely to travel, to alert motorists to the need to slow down and, where possible, avoid trying to pass farm equipment due to the danger of oncoming traffic that the motorists may not see around the farm equipment, including a discussion on whether legislation could be introduced to increase the fines for violating highway laws regarding farm equipment. Do I have a motion to adopt? Do I have a second? And a second? Do I have any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed, please say no. The resolution is adopted. We'll now move to resolution number 5, farming on public lands, found at page 10 of your packet. I will begin reading at page 11, line 38. Now therefore, be it resolved that we, the delegates to the 107th State Agricultural Convention assembled in Atlantic City, New Jersey on February 9th and 10th, 2022, do hereby urge the State Board of Agriculture and Department of Agriculture, along with the New Jersey Farm Bureau, to continue reviewing the current status of lease arrangements for agricultural purposes throughout the state. Be it further resolved that we urge any lease of public lands in which a county or municipality auctions the leasing rights, including provisions for an open public auction process. And in the absence of an open public auction, the current farmer be given the opportunity to match the highest bid. Be it further resolved that we urge the department and State Board to continue working with the NJDEP and the State House Commission to arrive at a mutually agreeable long-term resolution to the issue of which pesticides can be used on these lands, e.g. having restrictions about those pesticides hew more closely to what the state allows on private farmland, such as having those pesticides applied only by licensed pesticide applicators. Be it further resolved that we urge all municipalities, counties, or others leasing public lands to farmers give special consideration to those farmers who plant crops that take 7 to 10 years to mature to marketability, e.g. Christmas trees or other trees, when the maturing of those crops would take longer than the term of the initial lease. Be it further resolved that we urge the State Board, the Department, and New Jersey Farm Bureau to continue soliciting the input of county boards of agriculture and commodity organizations, and that the Natural Resources Conservation Service be consulted on lands leased for farming as part of this review. Be it further resolved that we acknowledge the recent movement within the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection toward a more consistent and uniform language on leases to farm public lands. Be it further resolved that we urge the SADC and the legislature to recognize and add language, where appropriate, defining a commercial farm to include leased public lands, which otherwise satisfy the eligibility for farmland assessment. Be it further resolved that we strongly urge that farmers leasing public lands have the right to protect their crops from any and all pests that devalue or threaten those crops using any method legally permissible on private farmland. Do I have a motion to adopt the resolution? We have a motion, do we have a second and a second? Is there discussion on this resolution?
Bill, my only question is for line 53 on that paragraph for urging municipalities to take special consideration to farmers who plant longer term crops. I have no problem with that. However, every other farmer that's planting an annual crop is also under the same, should be acknowledged the same way, because we have to put inputs in that are certainly not regainable in 1 year, that they're a longer term effect on it. So I think that everybody should be considered in that if considering a longer term lease is what I'm assuming the paragraph is for.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're talking about, well, leases longer than 5 years,
So-
and where you've got crops that have to go more than 5 years. And cranberries are a good example of that. We don't even really start to get anything for the first 5 years. We get a couple, maybe a small crop. And yes, I mean, everybody, if they're taking care of the land they're farming on a 5-year lease, they're putting in inputs to maintain the soil and everything. I think what this is really talking about is those special circumstances where you're not going to recoup, you're not going to get any payment back.
So
Until
I understand what you're saying, and I am totally for making sure that we have longer term leases, but I think we need to make sure we have longer term leases for everybody, because I don't want to single out a row crop farmer because it is still built into your plans, even though the crop is not necessarily the same crop as what a longer term investment
So
is.
you have some proposed language, Rich?
I do
I'm
not.
not sure exact. Are you saying we should ask for everybody to be able to get 10 or 15-year leases? or-
Yes, and currently with the state, what they're doing, the DEP on the ag leases that are going out, it is a 5-year lease with a 5-year renewable option as long as you're, being a good farmer in good standing, basically, to the best of my knowledge. But
Right. And so what you're saying, we should ask the counties to follow that same process?
Agreed, for all farmers, as long as they're in good standing. I don't think we should single out anybody.
So
I think where it says we urge all municipalities and other leasing to give I don't know, it should be, I don't think it should be a special consideration. It should be given consideration to all farmers.
Well, how about can we add at the end of that, and should also consider following the state practice on other leases, all other leases or something?
I'm not excited about that. I think it should just be, we should be going for a 10-year lease.
Okay, can you give us give Jeff some language to put in there?
I don't have anything written down. I'm really last second, Bill. I'm sorry, but maybe it needs to be, and maybe some, go ahead, Brian.
In support of what Mr. Norris is saying, I think what you're trying to get incorporated in here is something to the effect that even annual crops, you have to build the soil, you have to do things that are going to take sustained year investments. So I think if you had something that recognizes that certain crops, certain practices are going to take a number of years. I don't have words either, but I think that's the spirit of what Mr. Norris is trying to get at.
Yeah.
I can work with him.
Yeah, I understand where he's going. I'm not sure how he wants to say it, that's.
I think we need to take the special consideration out, and it should be all farmers who plant crops. Sorry? I apologize. I think the special consideration to certain farmers be taken out, and it should be to all farmers who plant crops.
Yeah. I think so maybe the way to deal with this, I think the intent of the way it's written is to recognize that there are certain crops that are different from most of the other crops in that they take a really long time to get your crops back, whether it's Christmas trees or apples or peaches or cranberries or anything, and to ask for special consideration for those. So I think, Rich, maybe the way we do this is, why don't you move to just remove this special consideration language and we'll put it to a vote.
Can I move to table this so I could work on the language with Jeff and
Sure.
represent it? So I will move the table.
Have a
till
motion
further
to
note
table.
time.
Do I have a second? Do I have a second? I have a second. All those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed, please say no. The motion is tabled. Okay, we will now, Jeff, or Rich, maybe if you don't get something worked out before this afternoon, come to the Resolutions Committee meeting this afternoon and we'll try and work this out. All right, we will now move to resolution number 6. Right.
Sorry to interrupt, Bill, but if I may, I need to recuse myself from the next 2 discussions because I am on the SADC.
Okay, thank you, Rich. Okay, resolution number 6 found at page 13 of your packet. I will begin reading at page 15, line 58. Now therefore, be it resolved that we, the delegates to the 107th State Agricultural Convention assembled in Atlantic City, New Jersey on February 9th and 10th of 2022, strongly support New Jersey's Right to Farm Act, and that we urge the SADC to continue developing, prioritizing, and adopting AMPs that establish standards for right to farm protection for certain agricultural practices in conjunction with the New Jersey Agricultural Experiment Station and Rutgers University, and with direct farmer input. And that we call upon the governor and the legislature to appropriate a minimum of $300,000 in the fiscal year 2020, should be 23, state budget for the SADC and counties to adequately administer the act. Be it further resolved that we urge the SADC to promptly adopt an AMP to bring under right to farm protection those farms covered by the recently passed legislative provisions A 2768 and S 1245 regarding farm employee housing concurrent with horse operations. And we urge the CADBs that have been advised by the SADC that they may entertain and decide issues related to these recent RTF Act amendments prior to the SADC's adoption of the applicable AMP to do so if necessary. Be it further resolved that we call upon the SADC to continue to take the necessary steps to ensure that owners of deed-restricted farms enjoy the same flexibility in adapting their agricultural operations to achieve economic viability as do owners of non-deed-restricted farms in compliance with both the Right to Farm Act, specifically in the areas of marketing and agritourism, and consistent with the terms of the Farmland Preservation Deed of Easement. Be it further resolved that we urge the passage of legislation to discourage repeated harassment suits against farmers, including requiring complainants to pay all reasonable legal fees and associated costs the farmer may incur to defend against complaints where the farmer is determined to be operating in compliance with all appropriate AMPs or is otherwise entitled to right to farm protection. Be it further resolved that we urge the SADC, the Department of Agriculture, and interested legislators to work together using the research conducted by the department's Division of Agricultural and Natural Resources to create an aquaculture-specific form of right to farm protections to protect against nuisance complaints by neighbors to aquaculture operations, given the particular differences in property ownership and aquaculture business structure in the industry. Do I have a motion to adopt? I have a motion. Do I have a second? And a second. Do we have any discussion?
I'd like to change some of the whereas. We have some factual inaccuracies starting on line 53. Just to clean it up, I'd like to remove some statements that aren't exactly true, although I can understand how they're wanting to be true. But in general, we'd like to remove lines 54 through 57 and change the line on line 53, the word similar to of. So on line 53, where it says similar, I'm sorry, yeah, line 53, there it goes. With the caveat that such protections cannot exactly mirror the right to farm, that section and beyond should be removed. On on line 52, where it says similar, change that to of. And that will clean up the statement to make it just simply correct. To aquaculture, period. Correct. Stricken.
Okay. Yeah, okay, so at line 53, it's sort of hard to see because we can't see what comes above it. So at line 53, we're going to put a period after the word agriculture and strike the rest of that whereas. That's the proposed amendment. Do I have a second for that amendment, that proposed amendment? I have a second. Do we have any discussion on the proposed amendment?
Just so that everyone understands, it's the statement, we did speak with the legislature, but we did not ask for this second half of the paragraph. So I'm just trying to strike that, not to imply something that actually did not happen.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion on the proposed amendment? Seeing none, all those in favor of the proposed amendment to strike everything after agriculture, aquaculture, I'm sorry. Mine says agriculture at line 53. Strike everything after aquaculture. Please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say no. The amendment is adopted. You have another one?
A second motion, please. Thank you.
Yep.
Line 83 through 88 in the be it resolved sections. We would like to strike all of the words after SADC and add new language. So the correct spot there. After that, we would like to add the following language. To urge the SADC to send a representative to meet with those regulatory agencies involved with aquaculture to educate on what is the right to farm, its procedure, how it can be used, and answer questions and address concerns from the agencies.
Okay, so the proposed amendment is to insert the language in red, which reads, for those of you in the back of the room, that we urge the SADC to send a representative to meet with those regulatory agencies involved in aquaculture to educate on what the right to farm law is, its procedures, how it can be used, and to answer any questions and address concerns from the agencies. And then to strike the remainder of the paragraph. That's your, all right, that's the proposed amendment. Do I have a second? I have a second. Any discussion on the proposed amendment?
To be clear, what's going on here is we're trying to preempt discussions with the agencies. We have put forward legislation. We had a little bit of discussion about some concerns that the agencies had. As many of you know by now, we have multiple agencies that regulate us. So this is to preempt their questions that they might have should we put no legislation forward so that they understand what it is we're asking for. And that just makes it a very clean statement instead of trying to make a whole new program.
Okay, thanks.
I'm just wondering, Matt, if it would kind of, if you could explain what are the protections that you're asking for and that you feel are not addressed, or want to be addressed as you're going forward.
Secretary Fisher, I feel that we are part and parcel with agriculture, so we would like the same protections as all other farmers in this room.
So, any other discussion on the proposed amendment? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, please say no. The amendment is adopted. Do we have any further discussion on the main resolution?
Angelo Trapani, representative from the vegetable growers. The only thing I got to say, right to farm is real precious to us, and we got to protect that. And now some of the rulings that they're doing is not really protecting us. I'm not saying that we want to protect bad farmers or farmers that have sort of unhealthy operations, detrimental to the neighborhood or whatever. But they've come up with some decisions that this might be covered here with the right to farm on your farm, and then this part of here, it's not going to be covered with right to farm. And now we're going to get lawsuits here. Some people, we all have neighbors. And let's face it, we don't all agree with our neighbors. So we could have disgruntled neighbors. There was a farmer that had, I don't know, I can't, an enormous number of complaints against him, all from one neighbor. Now it went before the county ag development board. Then they pushed it up to the state ag development board. Nobody wants to make a decision. The gentleman has a practice it's a livestock operation. He has practiced all the suggestions given to him by Rutgers, by the DEP, by the Board of Health. And where else can we go to get more, practices that are okay? Now they kind of ruled that we're going to take out the smell part. And now the gentleman, we can't really bring up his name. I don't want to bring up the operation or anything because he's in court right now, spending his money with lawyers appealing it because of smell. Everybody has something on their farm that may be detrimental to your neighbor. You could have dust. Your neighbor puts up clothing and you're disking out there and you got dust that's all over her clothing. She get mad. You could have, wood piles. I know some farmers, they did have to move a wood pile away from the property line because of rodents and stuff like that. But the gentleman did get okays and the practices that he was using that he could do it. And he even got loans throughout the farm, from the farm community that because he had a practice that was okay by them, he got the loans. So now if they take this practice away, how is he going to pay that loan? Then he's got to dwindle down his operation, and now he's not going to be able to pay his loan. So I think, and we had people that are on these boards that are supposed to be for agriculture, and they voted against them. They voted against him. I don't know if they went out there and inspected his ground personally, but they should have went out there and inspected it. But we put these people on there. I think there should be a litmus test of anybody that we put on the state board or county boards that they're going to rule in favor of our farmers. I think it's very important that they do. And I think that the state board should write a letter to the SADC and get the information on this and tell them to rescind their decision. I think it's very important, and I'm sure, we don't, they said, what word came back that this is only a site specific, but it's going to set a precedent. To me, it sets a precedent. Once they get away with one thing here, they're going to use that when they go over here. They're going to set a precedent. And we don't want to set precedents like that against the farmer. We want to take care of our farmers in New Jersey. Well, that's all I had to say.
Okay. Thanks, Angelo.
Yeah, so I agree with Angelo. There's a lot of concern about the precedents that's being set with the State Ag Development Committee. I'm concerned that their efforts of putting in a lot of AMPs are deteriorating the original Right to Farm Act and some of the language. I've seen several situations where the State Ag Development Committee has overturned and changed rulings of the Office of Administrative Law. So a situation's gone through county level, it's gone to the Office of Administrative Law. The Office of Administrative Law has sided with the farmer, and then it's gone to the Ag Development Committee, who's overturned a lot of the things that Office of Administrative Law said, yes, this is correct. And that really concerns me when the SADC starts picking and choosing little bits and pieces out of it and setting a precedent that deteriorates the right to farm law. I don't know whether we should add language in there that we discourage the SADC from ruling differently than the Office of Administrative Law does in any situations that are positive towards farmers' ability to produce. Or if we put language that deters any decisions that compromise the right to farm.
So do you have any specific language that you'd like to propose, Phil, or?
I'm struggling with how to word it in an appropriate manner. I'd be open to other suggestions if any other members have thoughts on this. Because like I said, I've seen several situations and cases where the right to farm ruling has been deteriorated based on specific decisions on the Ag Development or the State Ag Development Board, and it has deteriorated the right to farm. It's created precedents that are detrimental to right to farm rules.
Yeah. So, microphone. Did you have a comment, Bill? Oh, well, we don't actually have any language to second yet, do we? Oh, well, yeah, we've got a partial sentence there.
I had a motion over here, table this situation.
All right, we have a motion to table. Do we have a second? I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed, please say no. The resolution is tabled. Again, if you can, those of you that are interested in this, if you can come to the Resolutions Committee meeting at the end of the day's session, we will try and chart a course here. So, Mr. President, we have completed resolutions 1 through 6. 2 of those resolutions have been tabled, and I will turn the podium back over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman Cutts. At this time, I would like to remind the delegates to return back to the Wildwood Ballroom after lunch at 1:30 p.m. The New Jersey Agricultural Society Luncheon is held upstairs in Avalon Ballroom Entrance 3. Lunch will be a buffet, so you will have time to visit some of the exhibits at the Vegetable Growers Trade Show located in Wildwood Ballroom 16. At this point, we can move on. Thank you.